Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Word on the Snakevine. I'm your host Ross Deacon, and in this podcast we talk all about things venomous animal related, from venom research, venomous animal husbandry, animal conservation, herping, and of course snakebite and snakebite initiatives from all around this world. On this episode, I've joining me as my co-host.
Hi, I'm Ed, and before we start I have to do a few formalities. Any views expressed in this episode are the views of the guests and the host, not the facilities or company they work for.
And today we have quite a special guest that I think a lot of our listeners will know or have heard of. It's Gowri Shankar from KCRE. How are you today, Gowri?
I'm doing good, Ross.
I think most of our guests most of our listeners, will know who you are and kind of the work that you're doing. So I thought we'll get you on and let's talk about some of your work and some of the work that you've done in the past, and kind of tell people your story a little bit more to find out a little bit more information about you. So you say you work for KCRE. Can you just elaborate kind of who they are and what they do?
Good. KCRE the full form is Kalinga Center for Rainforest Ecology. We do research and conservation work there. So what I meant research, we collect as much information as possible in the field, and the same information what we do as a scientific documentation or publication is taken to the local people, schools, colleges, villages, wherever possible way to create awareness, education regarding these biodiversity and how important they are to protect. That's what we do. Research and conservation outreach program.
That sounds like you've got quite a lot of work that you're ongoing with, and we'll dive into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. So can you tell us about your story and your journey and how you became a herpetologist?
I was always interested in wildlife right from childhood. So I always dreamt about living in the rainforest. I don't know how I'd never been to rainforest before, but I dreamt about rainforest. And that passion right from school days, I took it to the next level. I started rescuing snakes. I caught my first snake when I was 14 years ago, 13 or 14 years kid, right? So that's how I started with snakes. And because the snakes are the only wildlife you see them in the city, and people used to hate them, they would kill them. So which I didn't like it. So when people started asking, what do you want us to do? Because snakes going to kill us. No, I'm going to rescue them. I'm going to catch them, put them in the bag, and release them away from your house. Will that work? They said, yes, it works. So I started rescuing snakes right from my school days. And then now I'm working on king cobras. I've been studying king cobras for almost 20 years now. I'm always fascinated by them.
I think they've got very much a place in people's hearts when they start to work with them and kind of understand them. I think it definitely becomes a bit of an obsession.
Yes.
So kind of how did you go from being this person at school who used to go and collect the snakes and rescue snakes to actually coming into research? Was there any people within your life that have kind of pushed you towards that career path?
Yes, I'm talking about 25 years ago, when we didn't have Google or YouTube or National Geographic, nothing. So the resources were very, very limited. So whatever knowledge I gained was from the magazines which were provided by school, and then luckily I was rescuing snakes on my own with whatever the limited knowledge I had, and I'm sure I'm lucky to reach that stage. I never got bitten by a Russell's or a cobra and die. So I was lucky enough to live that life. And then I met one person called Muhammad Anis. He was my first mentor. So he was the one who kind of fine-tuned my snake skills or knowledge. And then from Bangalore, I moved to Madras Crocodile Bank. That's the Center for Herpetology, which is in South India, Madras. That's where I met Rom Whitaker, and then I started working with him at the Croc Bank. I used to take care of close to 25 king cobras and few pythons and cobras in captivity, and of course lots of crocodiles and monitor lizards. So that I would consider as my college days. So that's where I learned a lot about herpetology, and then moved with him to the Mangalore, the Western Ghats, to learn more about king cobras from the wild. That's how I started. So Muhammad Anis And Mr. Whitaker, Romulus Whitaker, played a major role for me, what I am right now.
When you were working with Kings, was there anything in specific you were working on?
Yes.
For example, go on then. Sorry.
Ed, I'm right. I've been working on King Cobras, like I mentioned, like 20 years right now. And I was part of this radio telemetry project, which happened 13 years ago. So I was looking at the naturalistic behavior, the mating behavior and breeding, particularly the nest building characters and stuff like that. And then now for my PhD, I'm looking at genetic variation. King Cobra was first described or discovered in 1836 by Cantor. And after that, many scientists speculated they are different species, but no one had ever established it. So I'm collecting genetic samples from India all the way to Philippines, all over the world. That's in South and Southeast Asia. I'm looking at the genetic variation. So I'm trying to find out whether the king cobra is one species or there are many other species within one genus. That's my research topic as of now.
Sorry, the agenda says Ed was meant to ask the next question, and he's gone very quiet on me.
No worries.
Sorry,
it was a long pause. I was wondering, did you guys lose me?
No, we always have this situation at the start of every single podcast. At some point, we mix over each other or talk over each other. It's I think we get so excited with the guests that we have, and like a lot of people like yourself, we've looked up to for years. So we always get really excited and end up missing some of the social cues. So can you tell us a little bit more about king cobras and the kind of their ecology and kind of how they live and kind of where they live within India?
Sure. King cobras are the longest venomous snake in the world. Out of 3,000 species, king cobras are the only species which can build a nest. That shows this species is so smart and intelligent compared to other snakes. Most of the other snakes, either they give live birth. Of course, they are also smart in that way. But most of the other snakes lay eggs in a proper spot and they just leave. They do nothing after that. But here we have a female king cobra which builds a perfect nest, goes inside it, lays eggs, and waits there for at least 60 or 70 days, guarding the nest and make sure the eggs are incubated and no food, no water for such a long time. And a snake which is about, let's say, 3 kilos or 4 kilos of female, and she will lose 50% or 60% of her body weight just waiting there and guarding the nest. That's a dedicated mother out there. And of course, the male combat is very, very interesting. They can kill each other, but they don't bite. It's a game of the rulers. When they're doing combat, no biting. It's just the wrestling, just like our WWF or all these guys wrestlers. They wrestle for 45 minutes, sometimes 125 minutes. I've watched them fighting, our male combat, what we call it as, and then the winner gets to go and mate with the female. So the rules are set. That's a perfect rule, and the loser has to leave the place. And this winner will hang around with the female for almost 30 to 40 days, mating, resting, mating, resting, and of course guarding the female. He will never let any other male to come and mate with her. And of course, at the same time, king cobras are cannibalistic. So if this female doesn't cooperate with a different male, and he might end up killing or feeding on her. So this male is very, very important to stay with the female and protect her for almost 45 days without food and water, of course.
So will the male have multiple combats within that time while, as he's protecting her? If another male comes up, will he then try and fight that male to keep claim on her?
Definitely. I've observed these guys for almost 30, 40 days, and I've seen 9 or 10 male combats. So I scientifically haven't collected data, but I'm pretty sure I've seen at least 3 different males coming and fighting with this male, right? And I'm not sure whether you watched our Secrets of King Cobra documentary, which we shot in 2008. I think the 4th male, which came and won over the resident male, and that male had because the female didn't cooperate, the 4th male killed the female and tried to swallow her. So that's the interesting research data we have from 2008 and 2010. So yes, he does. He will hang around with the female, and given a chance, he will defend her to the life.
That's quite an interesting mating behaviour that he hangs around. In other species, it's obviously observed that the males will battle for breeding purposes, but then they just leave the female after they've mated. So that's quite an interesting mating behaviour.
Exactly. I'm sure they're polygamous. They do. I've seen a male king cobra traveling a long distance to meet another female somewhere across the road or somewhere, right? So I'm sure he's guarding two females. If possible, he would like to mate with two females, So that's quite interesting. Yes.
So even when he's with the female, will the male still be quite territorial about his set territory? Because I know they're quite nomadic in their lifestyle. I think you found that, was it 10 square kilometers that they kind of roam within?
Yes, that's the maximum we've seen, but I would say 4 to 6 square kilometers will be their home range. And we have a very small sample size when I started working on them. Yes, 4 to 6 square kilometers is his home range, and he's going to protect the female, and he doesn't leave her. I've seen her when the female comes out of the burrow, coils up, and she wants to bask. This guy would go lie down right on top of her and not letting her bask. And she has to move from that position to another position. So he's so protective, possessive. He will be right there, guarding her, watching her throughout the day.
There's quite incredible mating behaviour. So as you were saying, when you did some tracking projects with, I think it was Matt Good helped you with that.
Yes, he did. Yes,
he's spoken about it on a different podcast that we recorded with him. And kind of, what were the kind of the other behaviours that you saw from kings that are quite specialist to them? Because I think as part of the documentary, there was some film of kings in and around farms where they're effectively doing pest control of snakes around farm.
Yes. So that's quite interesting. So we saw, I don't know whether Matt mentioned, we had one male. He would shift during monsoon. He would go back into the forest and starts feeding on pit vipers, the Malabar Pit Viper, Trimeresurus malabaricus. They are very tiny compared to a 3-meter king cobra, right? This is 60 centimeters or 70 centimeters max. And I think for 6 months he fed on 24 Malabar Pit Viper and 2 hump-nosed Pit Vipers. So he shifts his diet to Malabar Pit Vipers during monsoon because the availability is quite high at that time. During summer, he will move towards the villages, or particularly the paddy fields, where he will bump into more rat snakes and cobras. And that's when I think he will eat as much as possible, and he will build his body and prepare himself to have a male combat. Otherwise, he's going to be very weak. He'll not get a chance to fight with a bigger and much healthier male. So he has to move into the villages and start feeding on rat snakes and cobras. And yes, if lucky, if possible, if he manages to swallow a monitor lizard. Occasionally, they feed on monitor lizards.
That's quite interesting to actually see that their natural diet isn't necessarily what a lot of people think it could be, with them going onto the monitor lizards. So, do you find that they show that king cobras show arboreal tendencies with, as you say, with going after Trimosaurus?
I have seen king cobras on canopy many times, and I followed them and tracked them several times. And there was one situation where I was tracking a male, and he was very close. I knew that he was like within 2 or 3 meters, but I couldn't find him because it was plain sight. And finally, I discovered he was right on my head, top of my head. That's on the canopy, and immediately monitor lizard fell from the tree, and I'm sure he was running away from the king cobra. So this king cobra tracked the monitor lizard all the way into the canopy, and the canopy jumped right onto the ground and just ran away. So I've seen them doing this several times, and I've seen a female king cobra using canopy and traveling close to 300 or 400 meters. So canopy is like tree. They are tree dwellers. They do depend on trees for a lot, for
So
basking.
that's quite interesting, because that kind of makes me think that some of the captive care requirements that people give king cobras in Europe and in the Western world, when they keep them, may not necessarily be adequate in a lot of ways. If they have quite an arboreal lifestyle with eating of tree vipers and monitor lizards, and as you say, seeing quite a few observations of them above ground level, it seems like that more needs to be given in that aspect from a captive care perspective. That's really interesting information that I think a lot of people would naturally kind of miss if they were to follow what's seen as the general husbandry rule in the Western world, which is quite interesting.
Yes,
so kind
of whenever I go meet my friends who have king cobras in their captivity in the boxes, I try to tell them, guys, give some space, give them vertical space, give them like 6 or 8 feet of vertical space so that they have branches and they can climb up and come down. I see them put in 2-meter long box. It's very, very small for a 2-meter or 3-meter snake. So that's quite disappointing.
Especially as some captive the Malaysian locality.
Yes. Exactly.
They're so large, such large animals that, as you say, they need rooms really for enclosures where they can be kind of simulate that nomadic lifestyle, which is really interesting to hear you say that they are semi-arboreal, which is well, they show arboreal tendencies.
Yes, they do. I see them in the wild, and I see them once I'm in Europe, I see them in the small boxes, so I get really disappointed. It's my feeling.
And I think obviously that kind of leads us on to you've recently and in the past done some conferences in Europe with the Herpetofauna Foundation, in the Netherlands, and I think a lot of people have heard those talks, myself included, this year, and found them really, really quite interesting. So kind of what other work are you doing with Kings at the minute?
What I'm doing right now?
Yes, what kind of work are you doing right now?
I'm looking at the genetic variation of king cobras. They right from Western Ghats from India, and they're found all the way to Philippines, right? And king cobra is a monotypic genus. That means just one species in one genus. And my hypothesis, no, they're going to be different species because they're separated by land as well as water. For example, the islands, they're covered by water. Now, how did these king cobras go onto those islands? And if there is a big separation, that means there is no genetic flow happening. So my hypothesis, they would have evolved as different species. So that's what I'm trying to do. So that's part of my PhD. I've collected the samples and I've extracted the DNA. I'm looking at the sequences right now. So I'm going to publish soon. So you have to wait for my results. I can't let it go right now.
I know. I know as part of your talk, obviously you elaborated a little bit more information on your talk.
Yes.
Obviously we won't discuss that in here, but obviously hopefully once your paper is out, we can hopefully get back on to come and talk about your findings and about if king cobras are one species or they are a set of subspecies or are they are actually need full elevation to full species. I think that'll be really quite interesting, quite an interesting paper.
Sure.
So also as part of the community, do you do you do obviously outreach work as well? So kind of how does the outreach work go down within Agumbe?
Oh yes, Agumbe is a best example. I keep talking about Agumbe everywhere, wherever I give my talk. The people there, they revere and worship gods. There's no for conservationists or herpetologists like us, half of the battle is already won because they don't kill them, right? At least 60-70% of them don't kill king cobras. So whenever there's a king in their house, they call us and they wait. They have a lot of patience. They wait for me 6 hours, 8 hours sometimes. I travel like 300 kilometers, go there and capture the king cobra, release them back into the wild. So that is, amazing relationship they share, king cobras and people out there. And at the same time, we also do our bit to reach out to people and tell them how important this particular species is for them. Like you mentioned, I keep telling this, having one king cobra, a smart, intelligent snake, is better than having 3, 4 Russell's viper, few crates, and 50 plus Malabar Pit Vipers in their backyard, right? So this guy will keep a check on other venomous snakes, and he's going to help you in one or the other way. And he knows your garden, he knows your kitchen, he knows your car shed, he knows your agriculture farm, because they're smart enough to avoid you and coexist with you. So I would put this forth to the people and tell, good guys, listen, have one king cobra, you will have less other venomous snakes. That helped me a lot in convincing them to keep a king cobra in their backyard.
You've mentioned already just then the interesting behaviour, the intelligence of kings, and how they interact with the environment they're in. When you're doing these rescues, the behaviour of the snakes, does this make it more challenging than, say, removing Russell's vipers from people's houses, or is it something that you're very used to doing and it's relatively easy for you at this point?
I'm sure many herpetologists would agree with that. I've been working with king cobras for a long time, so I understand them better. And king cobra is smart enough to, I think, understand that you're not going to harm them, but doesn't mean that I'm going to treat it like a non-venomous python or a rat snake, right? I maintain my safe distance, I respect them, and finish my rescue within 30 or 40 seconds as soon as the snake is in my hand. And yes, they're very smart, and the target, they know if this king cobra decides to bite you, he will bite you. And thing is, they don't want to bite. I would have died like 500 times now, right? And Mr. Vite could have died like 1,000 times. We work with them day in, day out. These guys are quite smart enough, and they don't want to bite us. So that's a big difference we see compared to king cobra or Russells. Russells will definitely bite. There's no way he will say, he's going to be friendly with you. That doesn't mean king cobras are friendly, but they're smart enough to understand what is happening.
So do you, leading on from that, do you actually see many king cobra bites, or do
no,
you tend? No.
That's the good part. No, we don't see many king cobra bites. Very, very few. To my experience, like 15 years I've been working in the Western Ghats, I've recorded like 10 or 12 king cobra bites, and mostly in that 8 are rescuers like me. So we it's a occupational hazard, right? We work with them, so it's obviously we get bitten, and there are 4 or 5 cases of normal or layman or a villager getting bitten. Look at the numbers. And India, with these 4 venomous snakes alone, 46,000 to 50,000 people die every year in India. With king cobras, maybe 2 or 3. Very, very less.
That's quite interesting. I think it goes to show, as you say, their intelligence and their understanding of what's going on around them.
Exactly.
And the threat levels of humans. And I think you always see the videos of king cobra bites in other Asian countries, but a lot of these are from people who are using them for shows.
Exactly.
Who are winding them up, and the king cobra is biting because it does not want to be there.
Exactly, and they're drunk. I mean, most of the videos I've been watching, these guys are getting drunk and handling a king cobra. So it's not king cobra's mistake.
Yeah, exactly, and I think even from a captive aspect within the Western world, king cobra bites are very few and far between. I know there is there has been a few high-profile bites and deaths within Europe from them. However, for the numbers that are actually kept, I think the bite numbers within Europe would show that actually they're very reluctant to bite in general. As you said, this could be down to obviously down to the intelligence of the snake, and I think that's great credit to the snake itself.
Yes, I agree with you.
But mentioned the education work you do alongside releases. Have you found this has had an impact on the conservation of the snakes in the area? And more specifically outside of Agumbe, you've already mentioned that being quite a nice place for conservation.
Yes.
Outside of Agumbe, have you found a different situation?
Yes. So I've been working in India. After Agumbe, I've gone to sub-Himalayas, Uttarakhand, and Mizoram is northeast, very close to Burma, and in Andhra Pradesh and Andaman Islands. So I've gone there, and I've trained the forest officials, the coast guards, the fire department people, and the local rescuers. So they're doing their bit to rescue king cobras. At the same time, this is the story I tell them. Look, guys, watch. I show them videos and photographs how patients, how people treat king cobras there. So the positive news definitely helps a lot. So they also think, okay, if those people can coexist with king cobras and they can save them and get credit to it and be famous compared to others, why not us? So we're going to do it. So that attitude has definitely changed, and people are coming forward every now and then. Every day I have Facebook messages or emails talking about king cobras from other parts of the world. So we are stepping towards a good conservation efforts.
And I think if people have that drive to help save king cobras, hopefully it'll have the drive to help save other vulnerable species within those areas.
Exactly. So we try to reach out to schools, colleges, villages, any group, the software company people or engineers, anyone who's interested to talk to, to listen to our king cobra stories. I'm going to talk to them. So that's how we've managed to reach more people in time.
And hopefully that will continue. And I know India is getting and has got quite strict wildlife conservation laws and stuff anyway. But hopefully that will help other countries within Asia build these conservation efforts around by using king cobra as a flagship species.
Exactly. That's what Romulus Whitaker and me, we keep talking about. Of course, Matt also. So we all globally, people who work with snakes, or at least king cobra people, we think king cobras will qualify to be a flagship species. So that's one of my goals, to make king cobra as a flagship species. And locally also, it will help us a lot in protecting the local environment.
They're such an interesting species, and I think just speaking to you and your passion about them as well is kind of driving that. Hopefully that'll drive it home even more, kind of that we do need to kind of keep on top of the conservation efforts, and also look to improve the captive husbandry within Europe and within the Western world as well for these. So kind of with the kind of staying on the conservation theme, kind of with the current lockdown, people are kind of showing pictures on Facebook and on other social networking sites of wildlife coming back into areas. The wildlife had gone missing. Kind of, what's your view of kind of this lockdown is having this impact is having in India and Agumbe and other areas?
Oh, that's definitely helped a lot. And in India, we've been seeing the nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide, all these pollution caused by industries, transport, the brick kilns, and many other pollution creating objects. It's very, very low. It's come down to 30%, and the temperature is better. The wildlife is moving freely. Most of India is one of the largest population also, right? So we have roads right in the middle of the forest, and these animals have to wait the whole day if they have to move from one part of the forest to the other part, because there's so much traffic. Now with the lockdown, I'm sure they're moving around quite freely, and we've seen gores walking in the market, and elephants coming into the villages, and rhinos in Kaziranga, Assam, and of course snakes. Snakes I think within 90 minutes, our people in Bangalore, where I live, we got about 100 and more than 150 rescue calls within 90 minutes. So it's gone up because nobody is moving around. And snakes and rats, the base is moving around a lot. So that helped a lot. And our river systems are clean, air is clean, and it worked. But the other side is the people living close to the forest, because of the lockdown, because the forest official and the cops are busy doing other jobs. People are venturing into the forest and hunting animals, because they have nothing to do right now. They can't do their job. So just for the pleasures, so they're going into the forest and hunting them. So that's the sad part. But we don't have exact data how much the hunting has happened, but it's been happening little more than the usual time. So I see both good and bad.
I think especially with the hunting, as soon as you are 6 foot into the rainforest, people aren't going to see you, and you're not going to see other people, and
yes,
so it's going to be quite hard to track the damage that these people could be doing to the wildlife.
Yes, but and also, the department people are busy, fighting with COVID-19. The government official is busy working on the corona, but they're not able to do their own job. So the guards are not inside now, right now inside the forest.
Yeah, and I think this COVID pandemic around the world could really help a lot of wildlife in a lot of places with the cleaning of rivers and allowing rivers to replenish and fish to have spawning years where they're not being interrupted by heavy industrial fishing and stuff, and it could really help recover something that's been lost over the last however many years of pollution and fishing and hunting and everything else as well. And I think it could be really good for us, and hopefully this will make governments see that actually we do have a pollution issue around the world, and to help tackle them as well, because I know India are trying to tackle pollution. It's kind of quite high in their government, in the government's kind of thoughts at the minute, and they are bringing in new legislation around transportation emissions and stuff, which is going to help anyway. But hopefully this will help them go, hang on a minute, let's drive it that one step further. Let's get cleaner air for everybody, for the wildlife, because India is such a diverse, populated and diverse country. And a lot of the wildlife there is unfortunately critically endangered, that it could really, this break is going to hopefully help that, and help with nesting years of snakes and other wildlife as well. I think that could be quite interesting to see what happens over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yes, I'm looking forward for it. I'm sure the entire world should decide, like every year, once in a year, 1 month complete shutdown like this. It's going to help a lot. Whether we have corona or no, we should just shut down for 1 month to do nothing.
I think we can wish with that one. I think
I would propose that. Yes, and we wish for it.
Unfortunately, I think for most of the world, money will always win that battle.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
So kind of let's shift tack a little bit now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the organisations that you're involved in, the charities, and obviously the other bits and pieces that you do work for?
Mostly it's our own organization, Kalinga Foundation, through which our research happens and outreach happens. And the research, we kind of encourage the bachelor's and master students to come and work with us and do projects in Agumbe, and wherever possible way, we help them with that. And of course, the school kids, we focus on them, and I've been doing this outreach program for almost 20 years now, and I've seen school kids becoming experts, and some of our students are doing their PhDs in different places all over the world. So that's the kind of thing I would be looking forward to work down the line. And of course, we work with the local forest departments very closely. And right now, as I'm speaking, we're trying to get like 11 or 12 eggs, cobra eggs, which was unfortunately like exposed by people, farmers, so they want us to be incubated, and then once they hatch, we release them back. And right now, as I speak, our king cobra this morning she shed. We were monitoring a mating pair. The male left a couple of days ago, and she just shed today. And within 2 or 3 days, she's going to build a nest. So we are following her. So things like that, and every day it's interesting for us. And of course, like I mentioned, the forest department, the police department, the coast guards or fire department. So we try to reach out to people and train them professionally to rescue king cobras. And due to this, the social media, the YouTube, and the National Geographic and Discovery, people watch these videos and think they can handle snakes, and the meanwhile they get bitten. Right? I keep giving this example. Just because I watched Jackie Chan movies so many times, that doesn't mean I can perform those stunts. Those stunts are well planned, and he's a professional guy. I keep telling this, but people end up manhandling, and getting bitten, and we are losing a lot of young kids to the snake bites. Right? Their age is between 19 and 24 to 25. So this is the age group we are losing a lot of young fellows for the stunts they're doing. So I'm very keen to train people professionally to rescue them. We need more people in India.
And I think that some of the work that Joss Luis is doing with the Indian Snakebite Initiative and the app that's now available
Yes.
to people in
Yes.
India, that's a
Yes.
great step forward to be able for people to identify trained snake rescuers to come and do that, and also help people who are bitten to identify the species, or also how to get to the local hospital with antivenom and such forth. And I think that app is going to hopefully help massively within India, because I think a lot of people don't realise that India is very much on that technology drive where most people now have smartphones. Everybody is now interested in social media and everything else. So he's helping. He's with that app has twigged into that market, and that market will help him move forward and help you guys train people, because people will see that actually once you're trained, you go onto a professional register and it helps with conservation as well, because people aren't going to hopefully people will stop killing snakes. They'll just phone a rescuer to come out and move the snake for them. Hopefully we'll show
exactly.
I think that there's some really good stuff going on in India right now that you're involved in, that others are involved in, that Rom's involved in, that is really going to help change around this bleak picture of snake bites within the country.
Yes.
And I think that's some of the work that you guys are doing, especially around king cobra rescuing and stuff as well, because king cobras to handle aren't, as you say, aren't like a normal cobra. They are intelligent. They will use the space that they have more intelligently to either try and get away in a more efficient way, or to use that to help them not get captured.
Yeah, exactly. It's working. India has changed from past 10-12 years. Things have changed a lot in India. I mean, of course, the technology is double-edged sword, and there is disadvantage and advantage. But there are people like me and Joe, a lot of other people we're using for the better, and it's working. It's working. We are getting there.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's really, really good and really interesting, especially from an outsider's point of view, to speak to yourself and speak to and speak to Joss and such forth. So, kind of, do you have anything coming up that our listeners can get involved in? That they can either watch or listen to, obviously other than the podcast. Do you have any other symposiums that are in the diary or anything like that?
Right now, it all depends on the COVID-19, but yes, we are working on the documentary, the King Cobra documentary. My research, my PhD result will be one of the best documentary. You guys should look forward for it. But other than that, we're doing a lot of online courses right now. There's one happening called Wild IQ for kids between 13 and 15, 16 years old. Kids are attending. There are 30 participants, and we are planning many other online courses, because that's the only thing we can do right now. But the King Cobra workshop, I'm sure you are aware, every year I do it in Agumbe, the King Cobra Bionomics. That's happening every year. So you guys can, the listeners can always be part of it. You can help us in spreading the message, invite us to give a talk anywhere you think it's relevant, and help us in raising funds to do our workshops and camps and reach out to more people by providing them the professional rescue kit, and of course the antivenom, and would name it. So we'll be very happy to collaborate with anyone who's keen to work with us.
You've outlined some of the work you do there, the education programs you do, and you've also mentioned how the access to kind of social media and stuff is a double-edged sword. Have you seen a shift in general public's demeanor towards snakes, or how this ease of access to information has changed people's kind of want to protect snakes or stop killing snakes? Have you seen that shift due to more education?
Yes, that shift has happened a lot. Like I said, what I do whenever there's a nest or any monitoring happens, we film and we try to call the local media and ask them to cover those people who supported us in this, and that the other rest of the world or rest of the South India, they're going to watch it and they say, yes, we want to be like that. We want to help Gowri Shankar in conserving king cobra. So there's definitely helped a lot the social media or the local medias. We take that as an advantage, and things are changing a lot. And people in Mizoram, the Northeast people kill them and eat them, so they are protecting it. If you ask someone to give up their food, it's not easy, right? People killing unnecessary, yes, you can stop them. Tell them, good, look, you're not going to eat them. They're not going to bite you, so don't kill them. They might agree. But in Northeast India or some parts, people eat snakes. And asking them to give up food is a big task. And it's happening right now. Things have changed. In Mizoram, yesterday, my friends, my resource people caught 2 king cobras, male, female, in somebody's house. And 4 days ago, they caught 1 king cobra there. So things are changing. So, definitely changing.
If you were to rescue a male and female like they did, will they be released together with the theory that they would be there because they are breeding together because they are breeding?
Definitely. My advice to all these people who rescue male, female, I would ask them to look for a nice burrow. First, leave the female, let the female settle down in the burrow, and then the male should be released right at the mouth of the burrow, and he will go inside and settle down. And please do not separate them. And given a chance, if the king cobra, the mating pair, is away from the house, I wouldn't even rescue the snake. I would put my research assistant and 1 cameraman there. 2 guys going to go there from morning 6 to evening 6. They're going to stay there. And people, by that, they get confident that these guys are going to take care of their problems. So we film or we collect scientific data. So only if the snakes are very close to somebody's house, we rescue them. The mating pair. If they're away from the house, I don't rescue them. We monitor them. We just pitch our tent and sleep there.
And as you say, it helps build the confidence within the public that actually these snakes aren't there to hurt people. They're not going to do anything, and they're going to help keep the other snake population in control. And I think that's a really, really good place to end the podcast episode, because I think that's on a really nice high from a conservation standpoint and such forth for these incredible animals. Yes. So I'd just like to thank you once again so much for coming onto the podcast and talking to us today about your work and about king cobras. And there's been some quite interesting bits and pieces in there that I personally didn't know, and I think some of our listeners wouldn't know, and hopefully it'll help with conservation efforts for snakes all around the world, especially king cobras, and also help the snakes that are already in captivity. Hopefully help some snakes that are already in captivity get that next level of care that a truly incredible snake needs. So thank you so much. That's been incredible.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Ed. And it's a pleasure talking to you guys. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to reach more people. So you guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So
take care.
I'd just like to thank our guest again, and also our listeners for joining us. And also, please remember that all our back catalogue of episodes is on wordofthesnakemine.co.uk, where you can also find some bits and pieces of merchandise as well. All sales and costs go back out to snake bite and conservation funds around the world, and as we give those, we will obviously let people know. So again, thank you so much for listening to the episode, and good night.